Hello again. Good to see you. Kind of. Well, at least you can see me. This is us into Holy Week, and we're looking at, as we have been through Lent thus far, when we were in church and when we stopped being in church, we've been looking at the Gospel of Matthew. So this is Matthew chapter 26, verses 14 to 35. Hear the word of God and recognize that whatever I say off the back of it, God may be speaking to you directly by the power of His Spirit through what's said. Never underestimate the reality of simply hearing God's word and God dealing with you directly. Hear the word of God. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests. "What will you give me," he said, "to hand him over to you?" They agreed on 30 pieces of silver. From that moment on, he was watching for an opportunity to hand him over. On the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples said to Jesus, "Where do you want us to get the Passover ready for you to eat it?" "Go into the city," he said, "to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is very close. I'm going to keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had told them and got the Passover ready. When evening came, he settled down with the 12. As they were eating, he said, "I'm telling you the truth. One of you will betray me." They were extremely upset and began to say one by one, "It's not me, is it, Master?" "It's one who dips his hand with me in the dish." Jesus replied, "That's the one who will betray me. The Son of Man is on his way, as the Bible said it would happen, but it's misery for the man who hands him over. It would be better for that man if he had never been born." At this, Judas, who was planning to betray him, said, "It isn't me, is it, teacher?" "You've just said so," he replied. As they were eating, Jesus took some bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to the disciples. "Take and eat," he said. "This is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them. "Drink this, all of you," he said. "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. But let him tell you this, I will not drink any more from this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in the kingdom of my Father." They sang a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "You are all going to stumble and fall tonight because of me." This is what the Bible says. "You see, I shall strike the shepherd, and the shepherd of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I shall go ahead of you to Galilee." "Even if everyone else trips and falls," said Peter in reply to him, I'm never going to do that." "I'm telling you the truth," said Jesus to him. "This very night, before the cock has crowed, you will deny me 3 times. "Even if I have to die with you," said Peter to him, "I won't ever deny you." And all the disciples said the same. Why did Judas do what he did? The Bible is very unclear as to his motivation. What you will find if you go into the theology of commentators that go probably less into the analysis of the text, because the Bible doesn't say why Judas does what he does, does what he does. So people kind of speculate, and they usually suggest that he's a zealot. He is literally somebody who wanted Jesus to form an army, fight the Romans, get rid of the Romans, get rid of the occupying army, and as such, bring in a new kingdom. Well, he's very clear. He is ushering in a new kingdom. He's not going to drink until the day when I drink the new wine with you in the kingdom of my Father. In other words, there's a new kingdom coming. And to be fair, Jesus is seeking to bring their slavery to an end, but it's not slavery to a Roman occupier. It's slavery to sin. The point is, all of that is theological niceties. The point is simple. What Judas wanted was not what he got. He expected a militant military coup to oust the Romans. It is normally suggested. Because he didn't get what he wanted from Jesus, he felt he was the one that was betrayed, and he ends up being the one who betrays him. I'm saying it's not just a nice little pithy comment from a well-meaning, rounded sermon from an individual who's saying we should go and put our lives into Jesus' hands, and when we do that, let him set the agenda. It's not just that. That's what we need to do. The point is this: when we go to Jesus with our agenda, it's invariably a disappointment, because Jesus is doing what's best for us. He's doing what we need. He's not doing what we want. So when we come to our Saviour with a predefined set of expectations as to what he will do, who he's going to save, what he's going to do in our life, and what we're going to accomplish because of our faith in him, that's a big mistake. Judas Iscariot is generally considered to have been motivated to do what he did by disappointment. And then it says, from that point on, he was looking for an opportunity to hand Jesus over. As you go into this Holy Week, recognize that the opportunities that you need to be seeking cannot flow from what you've decided God's agenda should be. You should be much more open-ended. You should be much more, your agenda should be free to be dictated to by Christ. Because when it's dictated to too much by yourself, you end up being like Jesus. You end up being like Judas and feeling Jesus, you know what? Jesus got such a nerve doing something that I didn't think he should have. We need to be looking for opportunities to do God's will, not to shape God's will. We should be looking at Judas and recognizing that's what happens when we come to Christ and come to faith with too fully formed an expectation of what God is going to do. The reality is, we spend a lifetime seeking, looking for guidance, trying to understand what God wants us and wants of us. We should not be too forceful, too pushing the hand of Jesus to do a certain thing. We should be looking for opportunities to listen and to understand what he's asking us to do in a given situation. When we do the opposite, we end up being like Judas and feeling betrayed. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, Judas looked for opportunities to hand you over to the Pharisees. We ask, Lord, that you would help us this Holy Week to look for opportunities to serve you, to recognize the place that you've called us to, and to simply get on with the business of serving you there. We ask, Lord, that we would not be too big for our own boots and recognize you call us to what we're meant to do. Allow us the humility and the competence. Bless us with both to simply get on and do it. Help us in Jesus' name. Amen. Really glad that you were here this morning. Those are the passages that we're going to be going through this week. And so if you want to prepare for them, please do so, as in read them before you watch this. As you can see, we've only touched on a few verses because the passages can be quite long. But hopefully they give us something to think about each day, whether it's at the beginning of the day or at the end. Really glad to see you. If you've got any comments to make or questions to ask, you realise there's the comments below this particular playing on YouTube, this clip. And if you wish to subscribe, even better. Most importantly of all, I pray that you go with God today, because I know God goes with you. See you soon. Bye-bye.